The sunlight in our kitchen that Saturday morning was a liar. It streamed through the bay window, dappling the marble countertops and the vase of fresh lilies in a picture of domestic perfection. My daughter, Chloe, was buzzing with a radiant, nervous energy, her phone practically glowing in her hand. At 16, every emotion is a seismic event, and this was a full-scale eruption of joy. "Mom, you have to meet him," she gushed, spinning on her stool. "His name is Leo. He's perfect. He's smart, he's kind, he listens. He gets me." My heart did that familiar, aching squeeze of watching your child step toward the precipice of first love. "Bring him by for dinner," I said, smoothing her hair. "We'll order pizza. Keep it casual." My husband, David, was reading the paper at the table, a mug of coffee steaming beside him. He gave a non-committal grunt, the standard soundtrack of teenage dramatics. I should have noticed how his knuckles tightened around the edge of the financial section. I should have seen the way the colour left his face, a slow, draining leak. But I was too busy smiling at my daughter's light. Leo arrived on Monday evening. He was tall and lanky, with a shock of dark, unruly hair and a shy, genuine smile. He shook my hand firmly. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Carter." His manners were impeccable. But when he turned to David, the air in our foyer solidified. David had risen slowly from his chair, a statue of shock. He stared at Leo not with paternal appraisal, but with raw, unmasked horror. "Leo." David's voice was a strangled thing. "Leo Valdez." The boy's smile faltered, confusion knitting his brows. "Yes, sir. That's me." In that moment, I saw it. The curve of the jaw. The specific shade of hazel in the eyes. The way he held his shoulders. He was a ghost from my husband's past, wearing our daughter's favorite hoodie. The name Valdez was the key that unlocked a vault I'd forgotten existed. Sophia Valdez. David's tempestuous, short-lived affair 20 years ago, a brutal wound in the early fabric of our marriage that we had painstakingly stitched closed. He had told me it was over, that she had moved away, that there were no ties. He had sworn. The dinner was a silent, screaming tableau of agony. Chloe, oblivious in her bliss, chatted about school and movies. Leo was polite but watchful, his eyes flicking between David's ashen face and my frozen smile. David said nothing. He just stared at his plate, the pizza congealing on the ceramic. After the two teenagers retreated to the living room, I followed David to his study. "You knew," I whispered, the words scraping my throat. The second he walked in. "You knew who he was." David collapsed into his leather chair, his face in his hands. "His mother, Sophia. She never told me. She left the city. I sent money for a while, then the check stopped coming back. I assumed she'd met someone else. I thought it was done." He was a coward, hiding behind assumed conclusions. He had a son. A living, breathing son who was now holding our daughter's hand in the next room. The truth, when we forced it into the light, was more grotesque than I could have imagined. Leo had grown up knowing his father's name, but not his face. His mother had died a year ago in a car accident, and in her things, he found old letters, a picture, and our address. He'd moved to the city to live with an aunt, starting at Chloe's school. He hadn't sought David out. He'd wanted to make his own way first. Meeting Chloe was a cosmic accident, a twist of fate so cruel it felt deliberate. They'd met in AP chemistry, bonded over a shared love of indie rock and a painful absence of a parent. The irony was a poison. Telling Chloe was the single hardest thing I have ever done. We sat her down in that same sunlit kitchen, now feeling like an interrogation room. David, broken and weeping, laid out the truth. Her face, so bright with life just days before, crumpled. The betrayal wasn't just her father's, it felt like the universe's. The boy she loved, the one who felt like a safe harbor, was a living monument to her father's infidelity and her family's fracture. The genetic connection they shared, the bond she felt, was a biological trap. She looked at David not as her father, but as a stranger who had poisoned her world twice over once in the past, and now, catastrophically, in her present. She ran to her room, and the sound of her sobs will haunt me forever. Leo handled it with a devastating maturity that shamed David. He came over, his own eyes red-rimmed. "I didn't know," he said, his voice thick. "I would never have, if I had known." He looked at David not with anger, but with a profound, weary sadness. "All I wanted was to maybe get to know you someday. Not like this." He and Chloe agreed, through tears, that they couldn't be together. The connection was broken, irreparably twisted. But a different, more complex bond was forged in the wreckage, one of shared trauma, of being collateral damage in the same old sin. My revenge was not loud. It was a quiet, total dismantling of the life I had built with David. The trust was not just broken, it was pulverized. The man I married had allowed a landmine from his past to remain buried, unmarked, and it had detonated in our daughter's heart. I could not forgive that. I filed for divorce. In the settlement, I was merciless. The house was mine. Chloe would live with me. David's financial support would be substantial and automatic, but his access to her would be on her terms, and for a long time, her terms were never. The final, poetic justice was watching a new relationship form from the ashes. Chloe and Leo, bound by a tragedy they did not create, found a fragile, powerful friendship. They became allies to survivors of David's secret. They studied together, leaned on each other, a brother and sister who had found each other in the most horrible way imaginable. David had to watch from the outskirts, barred from Chloe's life, and too guilt-ridden to claim a place in Leo's, as the two children he failed built their own family out of the pieces he shattered. David lives in an apartment downtown now. He is a ghost of a man, paying for a past he tried to ignore. Chloe is healing, slowly. She sees a therapist. She talks to Leo almost every day. They call each other sis and bro now, a protective, chosen title that walls off the painful past and builds a new future. I look at them sometimes, these two beautiful, resilient kids, and I feel a grief so deep it has no bottom for the innocence lost, for the family broken. But I also feel a fierce, burning pride. They took his lie and his weakness, and they are forging from it a bond of truth and strength he will never understand. He wanted his past buried. Instead, it rose up, and in doing so, it gave his children each other. They are each other's redemption. And he is alone, forever on the outside, looking in at the family, his silence destroyed and their courage rebuilt without him.